Developing headline as we're on the air this evening, north of the border. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau declaring a national emergency now to end the trucker protests and to halt anyone coming from the U.S. to join the protests. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, now.
Tonight, Canada taking drastic new action to put an end to the so-called Freedom Convoy trucker protests, paralyzing the country's capital city. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau invoking the Emergencies Act, a never-before-used law granting the Canadian government broad powers, including the ability to remove vehicles and freeze bank accounts.
Occupying streets, harassing people, breaking the law. This is not a peaceful protest. The time to go home is now.
Tonight, officials blocking people from crossing the border into Canada.
The Canadian Border Services Agency is already turning back non-Canadians trying to enter Canada to participate in blockades.
For the past 3 weeks, truckers have been clogging the streets of Ottawa, disrupting daily life, shutting down schools and businesses to protest vaccine mandates and all COVID restrictions. But tonight, the Ambassador Bridge, the busiest land border crossing between the U.S. and Canada, is back open. Police finally clearing the remaining protesters Sunday, arresting more than 24 people. The end to the week-long blockade can't come soon enough for American automakers. Chrysler, Ford, and General Motors all forced to shut down plants and cancel shifts due to the disruption in the supply chains of car parts.
When thousands of blue-collar workers showed up in Ottawa several weeks ago to protest the tyranny being imposed against them, the Prime Minister of Canada refused to meet with them or to speak to them. Instead, he fled the city. And then from his bunker, he called the truckers Nazis. When they still didn't leave the city, Justin Trudeau suspended democracy and declared Canada a dictatorship.
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act to supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations. The Emergencies Act will be used to strengthen and support law enforcement agencies at all levels across the country. This is about keeping Canadians safe, protecting people's jobs, and restoring confidence in our institutions.
So let's be clear, this is a defining moment in the history of Canada, in the history of the English-speaking West. The Emergencies Act is martial law. It has never been invoked in the history of that country. Now, by law, the Emergencies Act is allowed only in emergencies, in, quote, urgent and critical situations that seriously endanger the lives, health, or safety of Canadians. What's happening now does not qualify. What's happening in Canada now is not an emergency. Here's what it looked like this weekend. According to Justin Trudeau, everyone you saw in that tape is a terrorist, even the kids in their bouncy castles. Justin Trudeau has unilaterally revoked their civil liberties and authorized men with automatic weapons to haul them to jail. Trudeau was allowed for the arrest of this man, for example, making food for the terrorists.
You can receive a free meal, irregardless of what faith you're from, what caste, creed, religion, doesn't matter. It's about the community kitchen. We all eat as one and humanity's equal. So the Seva concept, helping the community, is what we're practicing here today. We're here alongside the truckers in the fight for freedom, and we're doing our part from the Sikh faith.
So again, all of these people can now be arrested on sight simply because of where they're standing, but being arrested is the least of their problems. An arrest suggests bail. You can get out of jail. You can't get out of the country Justin Trudeau has just made. Under martial law, Trudeau now has the power to force banks to seize their bank accounts and insurance companies to cancel their insurance. That means they can't actually live in Canada anymore. They are non-persons. They're enemies of the state, and they will be crushed. Today, Canada's Deputy Prime Minister, by the way, is a former American journalist, maybe not surprisingly, announced that going forward, Justin Trudeau will regulate all crowdfunding and cryptocurrency under the Terrorist Financing Act. Really? So Justin Trudeau is now in charge of all of your finances. He's in charge of cryptocurrency? How does that work? And on what justification?
But they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people? It's like, tolerate these. Now you do sound like Hitler.
Well, it seems one thing the left and the right around the world can agree on is that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has completely botched Canada's response to the so-called Freedom Convoy and convoys.
What Trudeau said and what Mar was complaining about was calling people inappropriate and calling them fringe and just trying to marginalize them.
Justin Trudeau, I mean, I thought he was kind of a cool guy. Then I started to read what he said. This is a couple of weeks ago. He was, or maybe this is September, but he was talking about people who are not vaccinated. He said they don't believe in science. They're often misogynistic, often racist. No, they're not.
And it's certainly one of the ways that you move towards autocracy is to make your opponents dehuman. You dehumanize the people who you're against.
And recently he talked about them holding unacceptable views.
And so you call them fringe and you call them, you call them inappropriate. You say they're misogynist and racist, even though you have no proof of that. There's another thing that Trudeau has called the convoy. And then, you do what Trudeau is rumored to be getting ready to do today, which is bring in the Emergencies Act, which has never been invoked in its 34 years since it was passed to replace the War Measures Act that his daddy brought in during the October crisis. Trudeau's now talking about bringing in the Emergencies Act.
Then we see the whole series of now they are people who are unvaccinated are not just frightened or fearful, but they're dangerous. And they are misogynists, and they are racist, and then they are white supremacists. So to me, he sets off like there's dynamite there, and he lights the fuse.
Everything is on the table because this unlawful activity has to end, and it will end.
The proclamation by King George III. Many of our subjects, misled by a desperate conspiracy of dangerous and ill-designing men, have forgotten the allegiance which they owe to the power that has protected and supported them, and have declared rebellion and traitorously levied war against us. It is the better part of wisdom to put a speedy end to such disorders. We have thought fit to issue our royal proclamation that all our royal officers, both civil and military, are obliged to suppress such rebellion and bring the traitors to justice. When the unhappy and deluded multitude against whom this force shall be directed shall become sensible of their error, I shall be ready to receive the misled with tenderness and mercy. For those who persist in their treason, the punishment shall be death by hanging. Given in Parliament this 26th day of October in the year 1775. God save the King.
God damn the King.
God bless the King. Who else could have brought such a spirit of unity to this Congress? We will now all hang together, or most assuredly, we will all hang separately.
It is time that we stop and we declare this pandemic emergency over. And the truckers of Canada had a gut feeling and some really good common sense that this has to come to an end. And the problem is that by coming to the population needed to understand that they are backed by solid science. And that is where people like myself, Dr. Hodkinson, Dr. Poness, etc., have come forward because we know 100% of the science is behind the trucker. The Canadian trucker is backed by solid science, not the government positions. These vaccine mandates have no scientific or medical basis and must be stopped now.
The mandates must be lifted tomorrow. The carnage that's going on out there with our children is indescribable. As Dr. Alexander stated, the evidence medically is overwhelming. I'm not going to list it at this moment. All I am saying is that there's a degree of exasperation that the world must understand listening to this. Canada has been put forward as the epicenter of a major change in how things are run. It's going to transform the usual institutions of politics, of medicine, of law, and the media in ways that we cannot predict. But major changes are coming. And not only that, but we are being watched. We are seeing democracy challenged. And the Chinese are watching us. Make no mistake, this is a moment in history where there's a tremendous amount on the table. Not just vaccination schedules, but the very existence that we want our children to inherit.
And Aaron Collins is in Coutts, Alberta, where the standoff continues. Aaron, what's the situation at the blockade this evening?
Well, Ian, the day started here with the RCMP insisting that this road to the U.S. border needed to be cleared today. Standing in their way, about 100 big rigs and their very determined drivers.
Here since Saturday, determined to stay much longer. This blockade has been disrupting traffic and trade for days. Protesters here focused on overturning vaccine and mask mandates in Alberta.
God gives us freedom, not the government. So we don't need to ask the government for freedom to walk around our country. The Premier could end it right now. Simply open up Alberta. He is responsible, as well as Justin Trudeau, not these people.
It's just a mask.
It's just 6 feet.
Just 3 weeks. It's just non-essential businesses.
It's just non-essential workers.
Just gyms, salons, and sporting activities.
Just until we work it out.
It's just a bar.
Just a restaurant.
Just adult care facilities.
It's just schools.
Just to save your grandmother.
It's just until the cases go down. Just to flatten the curve.
Just to keep others from living in fear.
It's just a few more weeks.
Just to keep from overwhelming medical services.
Just places of worship.
It's just singing.
It's just missing the birth of your child.
Just a canceled birthday party.
It's just a wedding.
It's just a funeral.
Just to travel.
It's just 3 months of lockdown.
It's just some stickers on the floor.
Just a one-way system.
It's just temporary plastic barriers.
It's just until we get the vaccine.
It's just an app.
Just for tracking.
It's just to let others know they're safe when you're near.
Just to let others know with who you've been in contact.
Just in some areas.
It's just a government guideline.
Just for your own good.
It's just to protect others.
It's just fact-checking, not censorship.
Just a government mandate.
Just the law now.
Just a scientific fact.
It's just these scientists and doctors, not those.
Just because of the second wave.
It's just to keep your child safe.
It's just another lockdown.
It's just 4 more weeks.
Just cancel Christmas and New Year's.
It's just school. They can do it from home.
Just to swab up your nose.
It's just so you can keep your job.
It's just for medical information.
Just a jab.
Just a car to store your medical information.
It's just so you can travel.
It's just for your passport.
It's just so you can send your kids to school.
It's just a third jab.
It's just so you can go to a concert.
Just so you can get a driver's license. Just so you can vote.
Just a facility to keep others safe from you.
It's just because of the third variant.
It's just a few more years.
Just for those people.
Just better to keep it this way.
Just because we said so.
It's just your freedom.
It's not just.
It's
unjust.
Start
resisting.
Now.
They
will.
Never.
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 Ever.
Stop.
Truckers in the Freedom Convoy defying Justin Trudeau's orders to clear the U.S.-Canada bridge by midnight. And their movement is spreading worldwide, sparking protests in France and all the way to New Zealand.
Here are the demands of the convoy. Terminate vaccine passports and other contact tracing programs, eliminate the vaccine mandates, and stop the divisive rhetoric, which we still, of course, see from Justin Trudeau.
What is the message that's resonating? What do truckers across the world hope to accomplish?
We hope to accomplish solidarity and to show our Canadian brethren that we stand with them, we stand firm with them. The message is simple. It is a freedom of choice that is really the biggest thing that needs to be understood. To be misheard or not heard at all is by far one of the worst things that you can do to a people as a whole. And I think once you take that ownership as far as being the leader of your country and to actually show some type of care, some type of empathy to them, you will get the side of the people to actually go along smoother. This is a peaceful protest. I think people mistake that for something else. There's others on the other side that have shown, hostility towards these guys. And I have to say publicly, stop. If you don't understand, just stop and ask. Talk to a trucker. We are the ones that help put food on these tables. We help run America. We run Canada. We do this day in and day out, man. We go away from our families, our friends, and we help out the countries that need the biggest support with these products. This is not the time to shun us. This is the time to hear us. So we say Freedom Convoy 2022, America supports you. All right, that's all I'm going to say to you Canadians out there. We support you.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Windsor, Ontario. And folks, I'm right near the Ambassador Bridge. We're going to walk into the crowd and see what they have to say.
I have never seen anything like this. This is amazing. This is a peaceful protest. We want back our freedoms. We've never had a communist liberal in power. We've always had liberals in this country that ran the country, but we never had a communist liberal authoritarian government. Trudeau must resign. He's nothing but a criminal.
What will it take for people here to disassemble on their own accord?
And the mandates, we'll all go home.
100%.
100%. We're all here as independent parties. We don't have an organizer or a coordinator. We're all Canadians. We have our freedoms, our rights, and our responsibility. And part of our responsibility as citizens is to demonstrate and keep our government in line.
I think Elon Musk had it right when he said the fringe minority in Canada is actually the government.
I'm wearing this shirt in support of the truckers, but I'm wearing this so that someday my grandson can wear this when I'm dead and gone and say, my grandpa fought for my freedom, and that's why I'm here. And as far as this being closed, Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Ford have locked us down, and now we're shutting them down. We're shutting this country down. And that's why I'm here.
All right, great. I am here with Chobovizi. And where are you coming from, sir?
From Windsor, Ontario.
And how long have you been here?
8 days and 3 hours.
Let's go. Let's go. What does this protest, what does this convoy mean to you? What is it all about?
What it means to me? Maybe my hope for freedom. I left my house devastated. I lost my job. I am the only provider in the family. So there is no way back for me. Right. I'm going home glorious like Caesar or in a body bag.
Let's go. And I'm sensing an accent
from Romania. I born in Romania and my nationality is Hungarian. So I speak 2 languages and I broke the English.
Right. And everything going on, what does it remind you of in this country?
Revolution, what we have in Romania, when we take out our dictator, the Ceausescu, if you guys remember that.
I don't remember nearly as well as you. How?
I was 18 when I was hauling an axe on the streets back in Romania.
Wow. So how does that compare to Canada? Are we very polite compared to that, or what?
Well, it's quite a while, but I never felt the way I feel right here. All these people get united. You know, I gotta say this. Somebody from Quebec came to me and he said, you know what, I'm from Quebec. And until now, I always said I'm a Quebecian, but now I become a Canadian.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So, in one way, we have to say thank you to Justin Trudeau because he made this happen. All these people came together. You know, all this love what's on the street, we can thank him.
Thanks, Justin Trudeau. Yes. Thank you so much for that. You made us all come together. It's beautiful.
If you joined the protests because you're tired of COVID, you now need to understand that you are breaking laws. The consequences are becoming more and more severe. You don't want to end up losing your license, end up with a criminal record, which will impact your job, your livelihood, even your ability to travel internationally, including to the US. We've heard your frustration with COVID, with the measures that are there to keep people safe. We've heard you. It's time to go home now.
So what's about to happen is Justin Trudeau is going to invoke the Emergencies Act. Now, up until now, basically everything that's been happening from the law enforcement side has been municipal and provincial. Justin Trudeau is going to be invoking the Emergency Act, which gives him permission to use and force like tow truck companies and take their vehicles to go and clear the roads. This is about to get insane. This week is going to be crazy. The next couple of days are going to be very, very heated, which is why everyone needs to stay vigilant, stay nice, be kind to everybody, kill everybody with kindness, hold the line, and keep doing what you're doing. Trudeau is employing the Emergency Act on Canadian citizens for protesting peacefully. Take that in for a second.
You now need to understand that you are breaking laws. The consequences are becoming more and more severe. You don't want to end up losing your license, end up with a criminal record, which will impact your job, your livelihood, even your ability to travel internationally, including to the US. We've heard your frustration with COVID, with the measures that are there to keep people safe. We've heard you. It's time to go home now.
Justin Pierre James Trudeau and all those employed in the administration, joint and several, have lost the moral authority to govern the people.
One person is responsible for this mess, and that's the Prime Minister.
Due to repeated usurpations and violations of the Bill of Rights and our Constitution. You have deceived us and lied to us by omission, unjustly enriched yourself and those individuals serving you.
My friends, this is great news.
And you, jointly and several, have willfully brought mixed war and treason upon the people living here. You have failed to address our grievances. So be it therefore resolved, your representation of us, jointly and several, is refused for cause, your ministerial duties stripped, and your charter revoked. Ministerial duties stripped and your charter revoked.
I want everyone to know that first of all, thank Justin Trudeau because he tried to separate black people from white people. He tried to separate the masked from the unmasked. He tried to separate the vaccinated from the unvaccinated. And I'm going to tell you what you did, Justin Trudeau. You brought everybody together. This country has never seen so much unity between the United States, Canada, and us. We've never seen anything like this. Right. Thank you, Justin. Right on. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. Yeah. Hallelujah.
I am calling on my military and police comrades, all of you.
all of us who have sworn a personal oath to protect our family, our friends, and our community, to now stand up and protect your loved ones against this government-forced medical tyranny. You chose to serve because you wanted to give back to your community. And instead, the government has turned your love for community and your loyalty against you, and you are now a weapon against the very people you love. Brothers and sisters, you can't be forever changing indiscriminate government measures which use fear and violence, and also be for your loved ones and for freedom. You have to choose. I am asking you to choose your family and your community. This is why you serve. And this is your moment to be a hero for your loved ones. They deserve the truth. They deserve to be protected. I am also calling on all Canadians to join in solidarity together.
Hello, everyone. I'm a police officer in Ontario, Canada, and I just wanted to make a quick video to share with all of you. I've been a police officer for almost 12 years, and I am still very proud to serve my community. When I was hired, I swore an oath, and that oath is very simple. It is uphold the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and to serve and protect my community. To the citizens, please know that there are officers all over Canada that want nothing more than to see our country return back to the beautiful state that it was. A lot of us do want to speak out and come forward, and we can't because we're being reprimanded when we do so. I am still going to uphold the Charter because that's what I believe in, and that's what I was hired to do. I stand for freedom, and I stand for the quick return of our country back to normal. Thank you, and stay safe.
Good day, folks. My name is Major Stephen Schwadowski. I have served Canada in the Canadian Armed Forces for 20 plus years. I hold a first-class honors degree in political science, and I have held several Army command positions. I have an urgent message for all Canadians. For nearly 2 years, our own elected government officials have been using the bullying tactics of fear, intimidation, coercion, and financial and physical violence against us to gain compliance for certain repeated medical procedures. We tell our children that bullying is wrong. We know it to be so. Yet we allow our leaders to do this to us. They have knowingly and repeatedly violated the highest laws of the land in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, as well as other signed international human rights agreements. Canadians have been lulled into believing that the same government who suppresses your freedoms in the name of safety will one day just reward you back with your freedoms if you just comply to ever-changing rules and health orders. That, folks, is the very definition of tyranny, not democracy. Humans are inherently free. Kings and queens and government cronies can't give you your basic human rights. They are naturally yours. They can't be given. They can't be taken. They can only be suppressed. In the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Queen Elizabeth is recognizing in law our fundamental freedoms. The federal and provincial governments of Canada have chosen, through a well-planned and orchestrated set of measures, to trick and fool and scare you, the very people who elected them and pay their salaries, into complying with the suppression of our basic human rights. They have knowingly betrayed you and me under the lie of safety. This past Remembrance Day, as I stood in front of the military cenotaph in Fredericton to honor my comrades who gave their lives for others' freedom, I overheard the Premier of New Brunswick, Premier Higgs, and our Member of Parliament, Jenica Atwin, tell members of the public how special it was that these brave members of the military gave their lives for their freedom. That same freedom that these very liars and deceivers are actively working right now to suppress. I stood there, a soldier of nearly 21 years, as a senior officer in the Canadian Army, as a veteran of Afghanistan, participating in Op Medusa, the largest combat operation for Canada since the Korean War, where I watched my own brave comrades fight and get injured and die. But I also stood there as a person who hasn't taken the COVID-19 injection. The irony, so even though I serve this country, and it has been an honor to do so, an absolute honor, like many thousands of Canadians who choose body autonomy and pro-choice, I am unable to share in the same privileges now, like eating at a restaurant, going out in public to an event, or even traveling across provinces to see my child. This is happening to many others. These government traitors to freedom are suppressing the rights of the very people they claim to honor, and it made me sick to my stomach. These Canadian governments are now focused on our children. I am calling on the medical community to put an immediate halt on children's injections until the Canadian public can receive the accurate, truthful data from these COVID injection injuries that have already occurred. The Canadian public has a right to be able to make informed medical choices, especially for their little children. To tell them repeatedly it is safe and effective and not give them that choice is a crime, and it's also genocide. The media and government must put an immediate halt to all scientific medical censorship and the silencing of health professionals who do not comply with your agenda, as well as hear from injury victims. The Canadian public has a right to hear from those in our communities and families who have been injured by this procedure.
I'm here today with Nick, who's a trucker. And this trucker, I salute him and I salute all the truckers. Thank you for your service, Nick.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
God keep you and bless you and keep you safe on the road. Hi, I'm Victor Green and I'm here in Windsor on Saturday the 12th of February, just around about 1 p.m. And I'm here to support all the truckers and the people that have come out the blockade of the Ambassador Bridge. And I just wanted to say a few words about Drew Dilkins, the local mayor.
You said this morning on a local radio station that some of the folks on the ground there, the folks being the protesters, you call them mentally unstable, who you believe were willing to die for whatever cause it is they're fighting for here. I wonder what prompted you to say that, and what are your concerns?
Well, what prompted me to say it is they made the comments themselves, reading local media and statements from protesters who are here, who are so passionate about this particular cause that they're willing to die for it. Freedom! We don't want anyone to die here. We want people to have their protest. We respect that. We live in a democracy. But at the end of the day, it is not right to lock down our international economy and to have these particular Canadians hurt and affect the lives of their friends and neighbours.
Drew Dilkins, in a recent media appearance, has said that this blockade is having a major adverse effect on the local economy. Well, most people here, in fact everybody here, recognises that the mandates have had a hugely greater economic effect on the economy. Drew Dilkins and people just like him, they're the terrorists of Canada, not these freedom-loving people which are assembled here today.
You know, this narrative is being created against us that we are evil, bad people, you know, and
terrorists.
Terrorists, domestic terrorists. It's a peaceful protest, you know. We aren't racists. We aren't misogynists. The local media is inciting violence on us. I've lost so many friends. I have so many people that I love and I want to show love to that I feel turned on me because of my stance. But we're all fed up. You know, what are we going to do? I've lost my job. At Chrysler, I've been put on a leave of absence because I didn't get the jab. You know, I don't support, you know, forced injections. I don't support any of this.
I just love the positive attitude by every Canadian I'll ever see in my life. I've never gotten any negative attitude from this place.
I'm here for my kids. I'm sick of them wearing masks. I'm here for their future and standing up for their rights. We brought them here this morning. I have 3 kids and I just think it's really important for them to know that This discrimination is not okay, and these mandates need to end.
This is hitting jobs, workers, and our supply chains that stock grocery chores from Windsor to Quebec. My community's message to the protesters: end this blockade today. My question to the Leader of the Opposition: when will the Conservatives stop pandering to the protesters and start standing up for workers of this country?
And we want to point out to Eric Kazmierczak that if anybody's ruined this economy, it's been him and the Liberal government.
This election, vote for a strong Liberal government that will stand with auto workers and strengthen manufacturing communities like ours in Windsor-Tecumseh.
Where is Eric Kazmierczak? He's not amongst the people. He hasn't put in an appearance down here. All he is concerned with the corporations and the big business. He's not concerned with the people at all. If he was, he would be down here meeting with them to discuss and have dialogue with people to try and find out what it is that we need to do to end this blockade.
You know, I'm fighting for the freedoms of Canadians.
That's nice.
You know, and I'm here to support the truckers.
Yeah.
God bless the truckers. God bless this land.
We can't have a group of people dictating policies which don't work.
What's going on in the mind of the average cop here now as he's facing his own citizens from his own country?
They're just doing their job. They don't want to be out of a job like anyone else, and I hope that they're trying to mug off the orders that they're receiving as much as possible and do the bare minimum and keep it peaceful as possible.
Yeah.
I can see it in their eyes. They don't want to be here.
No.
It's Saturday. They'd rather be at home with their families. I hope most of them are having a conflict of interest with themselves right now. You have to be careful. We can't repeat history here, can we? What happened in the 30s in Germany with the forces, with the law enforcement. We have to, on a slippery slope here. We have to be very careful, and I hope the policemen and the policewomen are having a word with themselves here and maintain the peace.
Okay, Ben, go ahead.
So me and my buddy collecting garbage. Streets are clean, as you can see. Super clean.
Spotless.
Spotless. We got shut down because we didn't have helmets, so we went and got helmets. We came back, jumped on there, and the cop says to us, it's got no plates on it, no insurance, so we can't drive this thing, we can't clean up garbage. They're stopping us from cleaning up garbage. They're not on our side, they're not helping us at all.
Yeah, it's a squeeze, right? It's a little squeeze. We are out here cleaning up, and a guy like Ben is driving around making this place spotless. There isn't a cigarette butt.
We've been spreading salt as well so nobody falls, because the town's not cleaning anything up, not cleaning any snow. We've gone through 30 bags of salt in this area, so nobody slips and falls.
And they've been here cooking burgers and everything for...
Courtney's been cooking sausages, hamburgers, everything by donation. We got a 53-foot trailer over there, packed full of food.
Yeah. So that's the stuff that needs to get out, guys. We're not impacting. This isn't under siege. We're actually cleaning, and this good man Ben is now just getting screwed over. But well, welcome to the Trudeau government.
We have worked repeatedly with law enforcement agencies to try to bring humane conditions to the people that are peacefully demonstrating. Washroom facilities, maintenance of those washroom facilities, and we have yet to get a solidified response to bring those deserved conditions to this peaceful demonstration. We are currently going to see legacy media streaming images of the police making arrests. They're currently treating this now with catchphrases, occupation, terrorism, and all sorts of very low-level commentary to try to sway people's opinion. They're currently out in the streets of Ottawa, and they are arresting people on charges of mischief for transporting fuel in proper containers in order to supply the people here for a peaceful demonstration to allow their vehicles to stay warm. If you've been following the media, the real media, the one you're watching right now. These are families. They have children with them. They have no intention of reacting negatively to anything that is going on. This is peace, it is love, and it is absolute unity. It is going to be an anxious experience. It is going to be tense if you are out in the street right now trying to aid your fellow man, woman, or family to keep them comfortable and fulfill their needs while we continue to demonstrate until we're acknowledged. But it is essential that we keep the same message. It is peaceful. It is unified. We will not have shows of violence at all towards law enforcement, and we must understand they are doing their job. They are doing their duty to protect the citizens. Though we may not agree with the actions that are being taken, we will not resist. We will not become violent. We will not act out. And my advice to those who are sitting in their trucks continuing to support what we know is right, we are here for you. We have a legal team. If you are charged or arrested for any reason, my best advice at this point is to be calm, with zero comment, to comply with the instruction given to you with the officer that is engaging you. If they ask you to put your hands behind your back, simply do so. No gestures, no comments, no nods. Simply follow that instruction and be peaceful about it. I personally, if confronted with this, will take the advice of the kindergarten teacher of my 5-year-old son that I miss so much and want to be with. And I will crisscross applesauce, and I will sit down, and I will not move on the street. And I would suggest you consider that as a very effective way, to approach a situation that has clearly spun out of control through leadership that has tried at every single corner to disarm the voice of patriotism, unification, democracy, and freedom.
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Don't beat yourself up.
So now that your job is done, do you actually believe the stuff that you say out of curiosity, or do you just kind of do the script that you're told to repeat? I'm just curious because you have destroyed my life, CBC. You write a lot of hit pieces about me. My family has been doxxed. I've received death threats. I have a 6-year-old son, a 3-year-old son. I come from a good family, and you've literally destroyed my life because I ask appropriate questions. I just want to know if you have children, if this is actually the world that you feel that, you want to raise kids in, that you think kids, should be living in, if this is the future for them. Like, you're young, you actually think this is appropriate? And do you actually believe the work that you do, or is it just a good paycheck? You?
I totally get what you're saying.
Like CBC has destroyed my life. Like, you should see the hit pieces, many of them that you guys have written about me. It's disgusting. I'm Kristen Nagel. I'm a nurse, and because of the hit pieces, you guys have totally ruined my career, and I've been fired because of it. People have doxed my address. People have given me death threats because of the lies that you guys spread and the way that you twist the truth. And I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and kids have never been happier than what has been created here. Why don't you show that truth? Do you see the smiles in the kids? Do you know what has been taken away from them these last 2 years? Do you know 6-year-olds have told me they wanted to cut themselves and kill themselves? Kids want to die because of the last 2 years. Why aren't you showing that? And now you're talking about kids' welfare safety? Now you think kids should be taken from their parents out of these trucks? You're working with welfare services?
What they're showing,
but you're repeating it. You're repeating it, and people are believing it. Why do you think there's people out here counter-protesting? Why do you think Winnipeg, someone drove down 4 protesters purposely and put them in critical care? Why do you think there's actually violence and hate happening? Do you know how divisive this is? Yeah. Is this actually Canada? Do you know what you're reporting and what you're doing to the people out there? How does that make you feel? You're a young guy. This is not the world. This is not Canada. This is not the world I want my kids to live in. And you guys are a big part of what you're doing. It's not right, man. You gotta think about that.
Yeah,
this is not right.
Your side there, totally.
My husband lost his job. He's a teacher. I was a nurse. Good people out there, that firefighter. Do you know how many nurses out there have lost jobs? How many teachers? How many firefighters? Like, just because the jobs I just heard there recently, everyone has suffered. People have died because of this. It's not okay. Welfare? You're bringing up welfare services? You're talking about concerned about kids being with their family? Kids are with their families in these trucks, and they're laughing and they're dancing. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves for what you're doing.
Fun is illegal in Canada.
They have never been happier these 10 days than they have in the last 2 years. Do you know how many kids came up and said thank you? Do you actually even look at the notes that are stuck to every single truck from kids? Do you see the heart that comes out from them? Do you know how important this is for them?
Yeah, like I said there, like I totally get your side there too.
Then why don't you report it? Why don't you guys report it?
Like I said,
why don't you report the truth?
It's not in my power now. Sorry.
You allow it to happen. By being here, you allow it to happen.
It's not even in my power.
Or is this your job?
Well,
is this your job to stand? So you consent. You consent. I took a choice as a nurse. And right away, as soon as this happened, I stood up and I lost my job for it. You being here a part of this, you're complicit. It means you consent to what is happening. It's just money. There's other jobs. There's other ways. There's other platforms. The longer you stay with this lie...
Stay stronger.
Oh, I am strong. You have no idea. But you guys have to sleep at night and live with your conscience and what you're doing to Canada and the people here.
I do sleep at night. Thank you.
I feel sorry for you. Shame on all of you. Shame on you. Sad, pathetic people. Bye! Alright. See? I held it in until the cameras are gone. But it's not okay. It's not okay. Anyways, I'm gonna go. Bringing in the kids, saying they're working with welfare services. That's the message they want to put out there? That they're concerned about the safety of the kids and the welfare? No, it's just not okay. Anyways, I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys later.
On Friday morning, I made the difficult decision to declare a state of emergency in Ontario. The police now have every single tool they need. They have every resource available to them. And we've made progress since speaking to you last time. I want to thank our police forces for their efforts over the weekend. The blockade at our border in Windsor has now come to an end. The Ambassador Bridge has reopened. We have managed the situation at the Blue Water border crossing in Sarnia. Toronto Police Services have successfully contained a second weekend of protest in Toronto. To those who are still there, to those of you who are there with the sole objective of causing disruption and chaos, there'll be serious consequences for this lawless activity. We will continue to raise the consequences against those who are holding millions of jobs and people hostage. A number of personal vehicles were seized over the weekend, and those seizures will continue. Let me be clear. If you choose to use your vehicle to create chaos, you will lose that vehicle and your license, plain and simple. To our brave women and men in uniform, thank you for your service. Thank you for making us of the special powers we have authorized to manage the situation over the weekend. My friends, I know that this period has been one of the most divisive times in our history.
Thank you, Rebel News. Thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you. What do you make what's going on right now, man?
Well, I just made my own personal plea to the police officers. I'm a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. And I've always taught, and I'm a retired educator. I've taught all of the people in my life to respect the police and I've been proud of them. And I am in tears today because I am no longer proud of them. I'm ashamed of their behavior. And they don't seem to be understanding the Constitution as the rest of us understand it. They know what they're doing is not legal, and they continue.
Why do you think the crackdown here, ma'am, whereas in Ottawa, the convoy is far bigger, far more demonstrators? Is it all about the money in terms of goods prevented from getting across the Ambassador Bridge?
It certainly has to do with the economics. And so there's a pushback on the part of the government, obviously, because of the economic situation. But what no one seems to be talking about is the fact that for the last 2 years, the economic downfall in this country is a direct result of government. Businesses, when they talk about how the automotive workers are unable to go to work, they were unable to go to work because of lockdowns. And some of them have lost their jobs because they wouldn't take a vaccine. So yes, this is an economic issue, but for 2 years, we have people who have lost their jobs, lost their businesses. This makes me ashamed. The thing is, we as Canadians have had a history and a reputation around the world as being complacent. And that's part of our peace-loving nation. That's who we are. And that's what our government officials counted on with each and every mandate. But enough is enough.
And ma'am, tell me, if the police are saying that if you don't go home now, you could be charged with mischief. Premier Ford said the maximum penalty yesterday, he said it was up to $100,000 a year in jail. If push comes to shove, if you're told to leave, are you going to stay here or are you going to go home?
Well, let me tell you this. I know a lot about history. And what I know is that Pol Pot, Stalin, Hitler all started this way. They go after the people who think critically. And the people who are out demonstrating are people who think critically. And no one in government thought truckers would be critical thinkers. They assume because they are the elite that blue-collar workers wouldn't have the ability to think critically. Well, guess what? Those of us who are thinking critically are doing something. And in history, those who have first thought critically and then decided to join together managed to get rid of oppression.
And tell me, ma'am, in the final analysis of this 6-day-long blockade, was it a success or a failure?
Absolutely a success. If nothing else, Canadians have come together. We're hearing out of Ottawa about the people from Quebec, people from Alberta, Canadians working as one. We've always had an issue with that in this country. It will never be an issue again.
And yet you are demonized as the fringe by the Prime Minister. You're called all kinds of nasty names, like bigots and racists.
I'm a person with a background of being a professional, and I'm demonized as a fringe and a blue collar. I am proud. I come from blue collar, and I'm proud of that.
Okay, then. Thank you for your time, ma'am.
Thank you, Rebel News, for doing all that you do and reporting the news as it is.
How do you see this playing out? If you look at the situation on the ground in Ottawa, how does it end? Does Trudeau meet your demands? Does he bring in more force to break up the protest? How does it end, Harold?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I'll be going home when we have our freedom of choice again on this vaccine mess, and we'll be here till the bitter end. The Army has already said that they're not coming in. Tow truck companies are not coming to tow us because they're not going to tow their customers, and the Canadian public has supported us with hugs, smiles, and high fives for a week. And they've supported us with food and fuel. Anything and everything that has been thrown at us has been handled with professionalism by the truckers, by our supporters, by the command center. It's just been amazing and humbling how through all this you can see God's hand in it, that this is going to work. We're not going home till the mandates and the lockdowns are gone.
Something that all Canadians and all politicians have to be aware of. This is the nation's capital. Ottawa is not just a city in Canada. This is the nation's capital. And as citizens of the country, we've been working for 2 years to get the truth out to the Canadian people. And it took the truckers to create a platform that's allowing these doctors, these brave and doctors that are speaking truth about the truth in science. Canadians owe a deep debt of gratitude to all the truckers. So to the degree that you can support the truckers, please find a way to donate to the truckers. But never forget here, this Ottawa, to the citizens of Ottawa, you are in the nation's capital. There is no disrespect to you, the citizens of Ottawa. But please remember, you live in the nation's capital. And as Canadians, I'm from Saskatchewan, I have a right to be here. I pay taxes in this country, and our government is violating the law. They have been for 2 years now. And so we have a right to make our voices heard. So never forget that. This is Canada. This is the nation's capital. So Canadians, stand up with us. Stand up for your God-given rights and freedom. For everybody.
Psalm 94. O Lord God, to whom vengeance belongeth. O God, to whom vengeance belongeth, show thyself. Lift up thyself, thou judge of the earth. Render a reward to the proud. Lord, how long shall the wicked triumph? How long shall they utter and speak hard things, and all the workers of iniquity boast themselves? They break in pieces thy people, O Lord, and afflict thine heritage. They slay the widow and the stranger, and murder the fatherless. Yet they say, the Lord shall not see it, neither shall the God of Jacob regard it. Understand, ye brutish among the people, and ye fools, when will ye be wise? He that planted the ear, shall he not hear? He that formed the eye, shall he not see? He that chastiseth the heathen, shall not he correct? He that teacheth man knowledge, shall not he know? The Lord knoweth the thoughts of man, that they are vanity. Blessed is the man whom thou chastenest, O Lord, and teachest him out of thy law, that thou mayest give him rest from the days of adversity, until the pit be digged for the wicked. For the Lord will not cast off his people, neither will he forsake his inheritance. But judgment shall return unto righteousness, and all the upright in heart shall follow it. Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Unless the Lord had been my help, my soul had almost dwelt in silence. When I said, my foot slippeth, thy mercy, O Lord, held me up. In the multitude of my thoughts within me, thy comforts delight my soul. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous, and condemn the innocent blood. But the Lord is my defense, and my God is the rock of my refuge. And he shall bring upon them their own iniquity, and shall cut them off in their own wickedness. Yea, the Lord our God shall cut them off. You see what it says in verse 16? God asks, who will rise up for me against the evildoers, or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? And like many of us, we're conflicted in our souls, like it says in verse 17, unless the Lord had been my help, my soul had almost dwelt in silence. I didn't say anything. I just wanted it all to go away. But now, as my foot slips, in my weakness, the Lord held me up. And I have a multitude of thoughts within me, and it's his comforts that delight my soul. And the psalmist asks the question, will the throne of the living God have fellowship with the throne of wickedness on this earth? The throne of wickedness on this earth, he says, frameth mischief by a law. What does it mean to frame mischief by a law? Framing mischief by a law is to legalize evil, legalize oppression. and enforce that. Tyrants make laws which are oppressive to righteous people, standing for righteousness, and they enforce it by mandates, by emergency powers, by illegitimate acts whereby they call their evil good because it is legal. When evil becomes legal, good men must do that which is illegal. They must stand against it. The Bible's clear. The workers of iniquity gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn the innocent blood. And the Lord God has to be our defense. That's the only way these protests will go forth, is under the power of the living God. And if you're involved, be calling on Him, leading prayer services, calling on the name of the Lord, or there will be no deliverance. And if you're on this side and you can't get out there, be praying for these people. Pray that God will do a mighty work. There is so much in the balance right now. The future of our posterity hangs in the balance. And some will just say, well, it's all prophesied, it'll all go to the dogs. Does that absolve us? Has that ever absolved anyone of doing the right thing in their moment in time? Would that have absolved the reformers? Would that have absolved the patriots if they had not stood in their moment of time at great personal cost and peril? Today we're so eager to be placated. We want to enjoy all the benefits that's been earned by our ancestors and never have any of it cost anything to any of us. Well, those days are coming to a quick end.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
Now the first thing in any battle is to define your enemy, to identify your enemy. Before you decide how you can overcome him, you've got to identify him. You've got to be sure you've identified the right enemy. Never pray against people, because you're not wrestling against flesh and blood. Human beings are not the enemies. We are wrestling against beings without bodies. We are wrestling against the devil himself in prayer, and it is a real battle.
Shine forth, rise up, Oh, Judge of the earth, give the proud what they deserve. Oh, Judge of the earth, how long